Hello, welcome to Inside Dale's Brain. Today I'm going to show you how to make a perfect Bourbon and Diet Coke. Maybe not the only one, but it's going to be a really good one. It's been my favorite for a long time. Of course, you got to start out with the right bourbon. And I want to show you a couple things, maybe not what you want to do. Okay, here's one of my favorite Bakers. You don't want to use that one. You don't want to use a small batch. They're really good. This one's out of Lake George area in New York. That's a good bourbon. And then just recently, at our wine store, they brought in this one. It came out of St. Augustine, and it's an awesome bourbon. Okay, these are all way too good to mix with anything except maybe ice. So forget the good stuff. Don't mix with those. You already know that. Okay, so that brings me down to the perfect bourbon to mix with Diet Coke. Maybe not Coke, I don't know, but with Diet Coke. And I hope you're not surprised. Old Crow. Now, Old Crow's been around forever. In fact, I'm going to read this to you. When Dr. James Crow invented the sour mash process in 1835, he revolutionized Kentucky bourbon making. Old Crow soon became the world's best-selling bourbon. Through the years, Old Crow has often been imitated, but never duplicated. Enjoy the true original. And that's cool. There's several reasons. Well, the way I got introduced to Old Crow was my wife's grandfather had a shot of this every evening as his medicine, along with his cigar or pipe. So that's how I learned about it. And then when I found out that it was General Grant's favorite and Mark Twain's favorite back then, that sort of did it. But when you find out, when you mix this, it is the perfect mix with Diet Coke. So that's the bourbon. Now for the mixer, we're talking about Diet Coke tonight. It really doesn't matter whether you're using Diet Coke or caffeine-free Diet Coke, I found out. They're both the same. The only reason I would use caffeine-free is because if you're trying to mellow out with the Bourbon and Diet, the caffeine-free is good. If you want a little bit more caffeine, a little bit more juice, then go with the Diet. It doesn't matter, though, taste-wise, I don't think. Now, the difference between these two sizes, because you don't want to go with the big 2-liter, that's a waste. That just goes bad, it goes flat. But this one, the small one, is my favorite because I found out I can get 3 nice doubles out of this one, 4 out of this one. 3 is plenty, because when I'm mixing this, I'm finding out that each glass is about 2 ounces of bourbon. So this is about a 6-ounce bourbon. This is about an 8-ounce bourbon drink total. So anyway, we're going to go with this one. Now, the other thing about this, it's got to be cold. Don't get this thing off the shelf or anything. Keep it in the refrigerator, because as you know, probably, that when you're pouring a warm Coke or soft drink on ice of any kind, it fizzes a lot and it loses a lot of its fizz. So a cold one won't do that. So always keep these in the fridge. Okay, it's really important to get the right glass. Now this gets down to your design favorites or the glass you've got at a special place or something. There's all kinds of double rocks glasses. For mine, it's a double rocks glass. This is kind of a fun one. It's got riverboats on it, okay? So if you're talking about the Ohio River in Kentucky, this is a great one. In fact, I'm from Cincinnati. That's how I got started on bourbon. Here's a nice Cincinnati glass. I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, you can see the word Cincinnati. All right. Okay, that was my first bourbon glass. I'll tell you why in a second. If you're really lucky, because we're talking about Old Crow, you might be able to find a double rocks Old Crow glass. Okay, on eBay or someplace. That's where I got this one. Hard to find, but this size is perfect. Okay, so we've got these 3, but my favorite, and it's a little off, is somebody who collects tiki stuff gave me this glass. It's a really odd Don Ho glass, and it's got this square picture of him, so it's kind of unusual. I'm thinking it's because it didn't sell so well. They refined it because the ones you'll find on eBay don't have this little square picture. But the reason that I'm going for this kind of a glass is because I like to remember how far to pour. So when I started off with the Cincinnati glass, I would pour right up to the top of the word. Let's get up there. Okay, right up to the top of the word. But now with this Don Ho Suck 'em Up glass, I can get right up to above the word every time, and so it's a perfect mix. That's, instead of pouring a perfect mix, I can do it by sight. So that's how I do that, and that's why I love this glass. In fact, I bought a couple more on eBay just so I had backups because one did break. So the perfect glass, Don Ho. Well, mine is Don Ho. As long as you got something with a visual line for it. Okay, so getting down to the ice, fill it all the way to the top. Okay, let's just show you. Look at all the way to the top. You know, don't scrimp. You want a lot of ice in there. So it doesn't really matter what kind of ice, whether it's out of your fridge or whether it's store bought, it's wet or dry. It seems to be okay. Because what I found out is what's really cool about bourbon pouring over this much ice is that it takes that edge off of the ice so that the Coke doesn't fizz up. Okay, so this is a brand new bottle of bourbon. This is great. Okay, so what you want to do, remember, go up to the line. So I just sort of swirl it over the ice until I get up to, oh, just over the suck, like, yeah, right there. It seems like it's half a glass, maybe it is. But when I measured it out one time, it turned out to be about a 2-ounce pour. And then, of course, the Coke is cold. It's out of the fridge. Pour it to the top, right to the top. It's a very little fizz like you would in a soft drink pour. And then stirring it. That's an important thing. You've got all kinds of stir sticks, you know, you've got your favorites from their souvenirs where you've been and all that. But by far the best is a Maker's Mark stir stick because it's not a stir stick. It does this. It makes the ice go crazy. And you want a little bit of a foam on it when you're done. Once you have that foam, it's like a root beer float almost. That foam is the best part for the first drink. It's hard to stop on the first drink. Perfect bourbon and Diet Coke. I guess that's about it. Till next time, this is Dale, Inside Dale's Brain. Bye-bye. Okay, welcome back to Inside Dale's Brain, Bourbon and Diet Coke Part 2. All right, you get down to the very end of the first bourbon. What do you do to make it perfect again? A lot of ice left, right? You know what you do with that? Down the sink. Get some more ice, fill to the top. If you can't wait for your ice maker to do it, you got to go in by hand. All right, same thing. Ice to the top. Don't scrimp. Ice to the top. Get the bourbon. Go with your pour to where you are used to it. You might like a little lighter, so you go down. You know, I don't think you'd want more. That's a pretty healthy thing with 2 or so. Again, wash the ice up to the top of the words for me, which is it's a half a glass. Back to the fridge because you want to keep that Coke cold. Pour to the top. Nice foam. Use you about that much Coke for your last drink. Maker's Mark stir stick. Rough it up. Get a little bit of foam on top. There it is again. And that's good for the third one too. Thanks. This is Dale, inside Dale's brain. Bye-bye.